Good morning everyone. Welcome back to grade 4 mathematics class. How are you all doing today? Today, let's start a new chapter, chapter 7, the world of shapes. So this chapter is about geometry. Geometry is the branch of mathematics which deals with all about shapes and measurements. So let's begin this chapter discussing the very basic concepts in geometry. So the first thing, a point. What do you mean by a point? A point is usually represented by a dot and it shows the exact position or location of something. So you usually represent a point using a capital letter and a dot. So if it is point P, we just put a dot and then write the capital letter P along with it. Similarly, point X or point Y and so on. Now, a line. What do you mean by a line? A line you can define as a collection of points that extends endlessly in both directions. Here you can see a line. This is line AB, where A and B are 2 points marked on the line. Since a line is extending endlessly, you can mark infinite number of points on a line. Let's see how we can denote or represent a line. You see this symbol here, a double-sided arrow. This is the symbol that we use to denote a line. It shows that it is a line. This is a line AB which is extending endlessly in both directions. And lines can be either straight or curved. And straight lines can be either horizontal or vertical or slanting lines. And horizontal lines extends endlessly in the right and left directions. Vertical lines extend endlessly in up and down directions. And slanting lines extend endlessly from side to side with a slope. Since lines extend endlessly in both directions, we cannot actually measure a line. But what if we take a part of a line? See, when we take a part of a line, it's called a line segment. And it will have a definite length so that we can measure it. So, a line segment is a part of a line and it has a starting point and an ending point. Here you can see the line segment AB, where A is the starting point and B is the ending point. And this is the symbol that we use to denote a line segment. A straight, small line segment written above the end points. Note that it does not have any arrows marked on it because it's not extending endlessly, it has a definite length. Now let's see what a ray is. A ray is also a part of a line, but it has one fixed end point, whereas the other end is extending endlessly in the other direction. You can see ray PQ here, where P is the starting point or the source of the ray and it is a fixed point, and Q is another point on the ray. So when you name a ray, you can ray it with the starting point and some other point on the ray. You see the symbol here, a one-sided arrow. This is the symbol that we use to denote a ray. It means it is fixed at one point and the other end is extending endlessly in the other direction. Hope you are clear with this. Now, when you talk about shapes, it's very important to know the term dimension. What do you mean by dimension? When you describe a shape, you describe it usually with its length, breadth and measurements such as this. So these measurements that we use to define a shape is called its dimension. So a dimension is a measurement of length in one direction. Depending upon how many dimensions or measurements that we use to describe a shape, objects or shapes can be one-dimensional, two-dimensional or three-dimensional. What do you mean by one-dimensional? It means we need only one dimension or measurement to describe the shape. You can see a line here. We describe a line or line segment with just its length. It does not have any specific thickness. Most lines are very thin. So we need only one measurement in this case, and hence this is a one-dimensional shape or figure. And what could be two-dimensional then? Here you can see a rectangle. How do we usually define a rectangle? We say A rectangle has this much length and this much breadth or width. So we usually describe a rectangle with 2 dimensions or 2 measurements. Since we need 2 dimensions or measurements, we call that as 2-dimensional or 2D. So the rectangle is a 2D or 2-dimensional shape. Now let's see what is a 3D shape. We can see a Rubik's cube here, and it has got a length, it has got a breadth or width, and it has got some thickness. So this is a solid object or shape and it occupies some space. So such shapes or objects are called solid shapes or 3-dimensional shapes or 3D shapes. And we usually describe 3D shapes with 3 dimensions such as length, breadth and height. 3D shapes or solid shapes may have a face, edge and a vertex. What do you mean by a face? A face of a solid object or 3D shape is the surface that you see around the object. So a face is an individual surface of a solid object. Here you can see the picture of a cube, which is a 3-dimensional or 3D shape. And what you see around as the surface of it are the faces of the cube. Now, an edge. What do you mean by an edge? You see, where the faces meet, you can see line segments. These line segments are called the edges of the solid object. And where the edges meet, you can see corner points like these. These sharp corner points are called vertices. When you talk about one corner point, you say it as vertex. Vertex, vertices. So children, I hope you are very clear with these basic concepts in geometry. You have to go through the pages, page number 102 and 103 in your textbook, and there you can see 3 questions given in the Let's Recall page. Go through these questions and you have to answer them. You can answer these questions in the textbook itself. And in page number 103, you can see a box, Maths Around Us. Go through that as well and do accordingly. So that's all for today, children. We'll meet in the next class with a new topic. Till then, bye.